Okay, everyone, we're going to get started now. So, welcome back, everybody. We've had a couple of weeks off, I think, now since we had our relaunch and party and all that stuff. So, here we are again. And I'm happy. Maybe if someone could just message out that I'm using voice actually, because maybe people don't know that I'm using voice right now. Let's find your messaging, mate. Yeah, Marcel, take a seat. Good to see you. So, we are happy to have back Kahu Akina, who was with us many years ago, actually, and we had the fortune to meet him again, and Venus did a bit of discussion with him and agreed that he'd come back tonight and do this class with us. So we're really looking forward to hearing out more about Huna. Just a couple of announcements. I mean, we're back up and running, as you know, here, and we have a website also, and there's a few articles on it, and do check it out. We'll try to put on there things like note cards from classes, sound bites, audio files if classes are in voice, the odd movie of a class, and hopefully Maya's got her camera ready and she'll take some pictures for us, which would be wonderful. So just so that when you finish a class and you want to maybe see it again or see a part of it maybe you missed, or wanted to remember something, jog your memory, you know how to do it. So I'll quickly pop in the link name so you know what it is. This is like housekeeping thing going on now with me. All very official. So here's the link to our site. So I want to do a little introduction now to my friend Kahu, and he's going to be talking tonight about Huna philosophy. And Huna is an esoteric philosophy from Hawaii or Polynesia. And I'm going to now hand over to Kahu, who's now going to take this over from here. So over to you, sir.
Aloha, everyone. Is everyone able to hear me okay?
Aloha. Yes, I can. Anyone else having problems? Sounds fine to me on my end of it. Sounds good.
Adjust for the volume.
Yeah, good idea.
I
think I'm stuck in the flowers at the moment. Sounds all good to me, Kahu. You can roll.
Aloha again, everybody. My name in real world is Graham Kapono Ehrlich, and I'm an alakai of Aloha International, which is an organization that was set up back in the 1970s to spread the Aloha spirit and the philosophy of Huna around the world. It's a very, very ancient philosophy and the word Huna itself literally translates as the secret. So this is the secret or esoteric knowledge of ancient Hawaii, presented in a very modernized and cross-cultural format. This has been done in order to make it accessible to as many more people as possible around the world. And once you understand the 7 basic principles that we work with, you can see them operating in virtually every culture around the world regardless of the cultural wrapping or customs and practices that it is being expressed through. So I'll begin with the story just briefly. Maui is a very well-known character around the Pacific, and in Hawaii he's the archetypal shaman. I'll talk a little bit about what a shaman is and does after the story. But he's often known as Maui Kupua, and Kupua is the Hawaiian word for a shaman. And he's also known as Maui the trickster, because shaman a little bit of tricksters, magicians and things like that. So here we go with the story. On a beautiful calm day, Maui paddled an outrigger canoe full of coconuts into the great lagoon that used to exist west of the village of Waimea on the island of Kauai. At the time, it was the practice of the high chief to station a luna auhau, a sort of customs agent, at the entrance of the lagoon to collect taxes on the goods from all who entered the region for the purpose of trade. As Maui paddled up the mouth of the river, he was directed to land on the shore before going on. Maui complied with a big smile, and the agent was immediately suspicious, because Maui had a reputation far and wide as a trickster. There was no tax on coconuts, which were plentiful in that land, so the agent, certain Maui was probably smuggling something, had his boat emptied completely in order to inspect the interior. Nothing was found, however, and Maui was allowed to proceed, although reluctantly. Over the next year, Maui came again and about every 2 months, and the same ritual was carried out. The canoe was emptied and searched. Each search became more and more intensive until Maui finally was allowed to continue on. After that first year, Maui didn't come anymore, and his trips were mostly forgotten. Many years later, Maui was walking the High Chief's trail from Hanalei in the north to Kaloa in the south, when he heard someone shout, "Heli mai ai, come and eat." Looking to the side of the path, he saw a man with white hair gesturing to come and join him in front of his hut, where he was eating from a bowl of poi. Maui sat with him and shared the poi, and they talked politely until the man said, "Maui, do you remember me?" Maui nodded. "I am no longer the High Chief's agent, and there is something that has been troubling me all these many years since I saw you last. I know you must have been smuggling something, but I could never figure out what. Please tell me now." Maui took up a large gob of poi and ate it, smacked his lips and smiled, and said, "Canoes." This story talks about what you see is what you get, and it's about the first principle of Huna, which is that the world is what we think it is. Which fundamentally means that everything that we experience in life has a foundation in our own beliefs. So the first principle, Ike, is the world is what you think it is. Now, Huna, as a word, literally translates, as I said before, as the secret or secret knowledge. A kahuna in Hawaii is a master practitioner of various arts based on Huna, and it translates roughly as the keeper of the secret. Now there is a code in the Hawaiian language, and if you break down and analyze the words, it gives you a lot of information about what the words, especially plants and things, that the names can be broken down, and it tells you a lot about what the plant can be used for. So Huna in Hawaiian, hu is the Hawaiian word for male energy or active energy, and na is the female or passive energy, Now this is not about gender, it's about the nature of the energy. So we have an interaction of male and female energy, passive and receptive. And in association with first principle that the world is what you think it is, Huna is the constant interaction of male and female energy, directed by thought to create experience. Now, this Huna philosophy that I'm teaching comes out of a particular family tradition. There was never any single tradition, and there probably isn't in any culture, a single definitive tradition. Each family had their own versions. There are many different versions of Ho'oponopono, for instance. There's a modern one out there that is not strictly Hawaiian in its concepts. It was created by a lady in 1976 who was very devoutly Christian, but has a lot of Christian influence in the ideas. But each different family in ancient times had different versions of Lomi Lomi, which is the Hawaiian bodywork or massage systems and healing systems. Different families had different ideas about herbs and how they use, which brings into focus really this whole idea that the world is what you think it is. And so how you experience it is based on what you personally believe. And if you can change your beliefs, you will create a whole different experience and reality. And this is primarily what shaman work with. Now, shaman originally is a Russian Tungusic word, and it described a specific type of healer. It didn't describe all types of healers, but a specific type that works with beliefs and images and symbols, communicates with nature in order to facilitate healing, and works with alternate realities or travels into underworld or upper world and in the dream worlds in order to facilitate healing. And in my tradition, kupua is a word that is very similar in meaning to the original meaning of the word shaman. So that's what we do. We are active healers. So if we encounter a situation or a person or an object, we seek to interact with them in a way that leaves us with more joy and more happiness and more harmony, and also to leave them the same way, to increase joy, and happiness and harmony in whatever situation we are in. And kupu is an interesting word, since you've asked that question. Ku is the Hawaiian word that we use to represent the subconscious mind, or what we call the body mind. And this is the part of us where memories are stored, and the part of us that's in connection with the entire physical reality. And we are infinite. And pua is connected with flowers and plants and the concept of growing. So the process is, one of my kahuna teachers used to say, ki is the word for life force or energy, which is it's all very, very closely related and interconnecting. Chi and ki are the same word in different dialects. Chinese, chi is Chinese, ki in Japanese is the same as ki in Hawaiian. So there's a very close connection with languages, which means that the people of Hawaii interacted with these other cultures in ancient times. So we have this interaction between male and female. Now, they're not different things. They're different points on a spectrum so much. So one is not better than the other, although we would use a different focus depending on what we want to do, because Hu, male energy, is more active. So if we have a plan and we want to go and carry it out, then we would move into this focus of being and go and do stuff. When we're looking for inspiration, we would move our awareness back into a more passive and receptive kind of state. So this is the awareness of the Kahuna teachers. And one of my Kahuna teachers, as I was saying before, used to say that the training to be a Kahuna is in a greater knowledge of oneself. This is the foundation. Now, shaman, we're in all cultures around the world, but there's a lot of misunderstanding because of what anthropologists did. They took this word shaman and applied it to a whole lot of different practices and processes around the world and different types of people, which isn't really accurate. So I tend to stick with a very concise definition of what a shaman is. A shaman is always a healer, an active healer. So we're always looking to interact in this way, in a loving, cooperative way with everything, with the environment, in order to bring greater harmony. And we define healing, myself, I define healing simply as creating a beneficial change. We don't really get into a thing about fixing something that's wrong. It's just simply creating a beneficial change. So a shaman might be a medicine man, but not all medicine men are shaman. A shaman might be an actor, but not all actors are shamans. All shamans are psychic, but not all psychics are shaman. So we have this distinction. We use all of these skills and tools that everybody has. Everybody has the ability to be a shaman or to be a healer or to be a psychic or whatever they choose. It's simply a question of having developed those skills and talents that everybody has. Everybody has intuition. Everybody is empathic. Everybody has the ability to heal themselves. And this is a distinction that my tradition makes as well. As a healer, as an active healer, I don't do anything to someone in order for them to heal. I work to evoke a healing response from them, and they heal themselves. And this will become clear as I'll run through the 7 principles that we work with. The first we've sort of touched on, and that is that the world is what you think it is. So, and this is there's a cliche out there that people use a lot, that we create our own reality. And they go as far as saying, well, we create our own reality through the way we react to the world. But in this tradition, we go a lot deeper. And when we're saying that we not only create our reactions to the world, which are learned behaviors, we create being here in this world and the parts of it that we interact with. So through our beliefs, through our expectations, through our attitudes, desires, fears, judgments, interpretations, feelings, intentions, and our consistent and persistent thoughts, most of which are happening on a subconscious level. We literally create being in this world. We create the people that we interact with and encounter in life through the choices that we make. We have a huge influence on how we experience this world and how joyful that can be or how painful that can be, just depending on the way we approach living in this world. So we not only create our reactions to the world, we create what we're reacting to in the world. And that's because we're brought up to feel powerless. A lot of people are very scared of having that level of power. But it's something that we in this tradition cultivate. Because through cultivating that, we not only free ourselves, from limiting beliefs, but we are then able to assist others to do the same for themselves. And again, we're not doing it to anyone. We are assisting them, if they choose to, do it for themselves. And that can work on a great many levels. Most people don't make the commitment to go in and train and become a shaman, but they can use the knowledge and the skills themselves and the techniques that we teach, because this is a very practical tradition, practical and pragmatic. We use what works. So they can use that then to make benefit in their own lives, and if they choose to, they can go on deeper and deeper, cultivate those skills, and then help other people through that process. Now, the second principle that we work with primarily is that there are no limits. There are Hawaiian words that are associated with these principles. But basically, we are infinite, we are eternal. We are in contact with everything in the universe. And in an infinite universe, everything is possible. But we have to figure out, particularly at a human level, how to do that. And basically all it requires is that you cultivate the beliefs that make it possible for you. Now, shaman, what we do is we will cultivate different frameworks of belief. And if we encounter someone that we're working with or a situation that we're working with, and if our current belief system prevents us from assisting in that particular situation, then we will suspend our current beliefs and pick another belief system or attitude or approach, perspective, that will allow us to work in that situation in a beneficial way. People get very, very attached to beliefs, which are really opinions and viewpoints. They're assumptions that we make about the world, about ourselves, about what we can and can't do. And if we can learn to set those aside from time to time, to adopt different attitudes and beliefs, it opens up a whole wealth of things that we can do that we never believed were possible. And that allows us in this tradition and in shaman traditions to do things like time travel, astral travel very easily, communicate with dreams, change dreams to change physical reality, to interact with the gods and goddesses, and to have very beneficial influence on things like communicating. We communicate with storms, we communicate with plants and animals, we communicate with rocks, because everything, another aspect of this no limits, is that everything is alive, everything is conscious, and everything is responsive. But we open up ourselves to be able to communicate with these different aspects of ourselves. Because with no limits, it also means there are no boundaries between us and anything else. Here in this physical realm, we experience it primarily as separateness. And we come here for that specific reason, because there are things that we can do and experience here that we can't experience on other levels of existence. But we all exist at those different levels of existence all of the time. We are never separate from our higher self, which is another aspect of being that we work with. We have three. We have the conscious mind, Lono. We have the subconscious mind, the body mind, the Kahu. And we have the Aumakua, which has meanings that are similar in context to perhaps a guardian angel from Christian and biblical kinds of thinking. But that's our higher self, and that's the part of us that loves harmony and has the ability to use the energy to bring the patterns in our subconscious into existence in the physical. Somebody mentioned ki earlier on. Ki is energy, life force. The Hawaiian word for the human body and everything physical actually is kino. So ki being energy, no being an intensifying word. Kino then is a very intense energy pattern. So our bodies are energy that we hold in a particular pattern based on the beliefs that we hold at subconscious level. And everything physical basically is the same. Everything is a thought form. And in this tradition, using various techniques, we learn how to create new thought forms that allow us to influence our environment. Subtly, but always with this focus of creating beneficial change. And we do that using focus. So the body is a highly focused energy pattern. Makia is the third principle. Energy flows where attention goes. And this basically means that whatever we put our attention on, energy will flow into that as a result of our attention and add more energy to it. So as shaman, we learn to discipline our focus and work with focus in a way that we are, to the best level possible, focusing on constructive things and creative things and healing and balancing ideas, because we get what we concentrate on. And this is the fundamental premise of the law of attraction that's taught these days. Law of attraction, we have in Huna, we have 7 principles of manifesting, and attraction is the 6th one. There are 6 more of them that we work with. But the fundamental of it is that energy flows where attention goes. Now the reverse of this happens also, and that is that attention will go where energy flows. So if somebody is, or a group is over here, or an event is happening over here that has a lot of energy in it, be it a positive or a negative event, depending on your value judgments, attention will be drawn there, and that can take our focus off what we're wanting to create in our life. And we can get so wrapped up into what's happening over in somebody else's place that we get drawn into it and taken away from what we really want. So we learn this discipline of acknowledging that stuff is happening over there, but hey, this is where I want to go, this is my flow that I'm going to follow, I'm going to put all of my attention in here so energy flows in that direction for me and carries me along. So using the blueprint of our beliefs and focus of attention, our aumakua, our higher self, moves the energy for us as human beings. That's this human part of us, to put energy into these thought forms that we are creating. So we learn to be, discipline's not really the word, but discerning. Discerning is a better word to use. We become discerning about what thoughts that we wish to think and put our attention into and our focus and energy. And this carries us into the 4th principle then, manawa, the Hawaiian word, meaning that now is the moment of power. Now to a shaman, and our experience is that all that exists is the present moment. And we exist everywhere and every when in this moment in time and this point in space. So for us there is no distance, and there's no distinction of time when we're in that particular focus. But fundamentally, now is the only time we can choose where our focus is. Now is the only moment that we can act effectively to create change. The past is not fixed. For us, our past is simply memory. And what people tend to do is recreate experiences from the past by dwelling on memories from the past. So some of what we do in this tradition is work on changing the memories. So if people are stuck on dwelling there, at least they can change them in such a way that they become more constructive And so they begin creating better experiences in the present moment. And as shaman, and I'm using this word in a very definitive way in this original definition of it. When I say shaman, I mean the Hawaiian shaman, which we have different rules and assumptions, attitudes than some of the other traditions. So our purpose is to create a healing response in the person or in the situation. So that is, and we're very results driven. So the idea is to create the healing benefit, not to prove a healing method. So we will use whatever is appropriate for the situation or the person. And an example of that, something one of my friends in Hawaii has done, he encountered a person who was very, very strongly attached to the voodoo traditions. And the original voodoo, which was not all the zombies and evil and stuff that you get in the movies these days. When you look at it, there's a lot of similarities between voodoo and Christianity, for instance. And in fact, these days they use the same icons for the saints as they do for the loas that they use. And they have loas that they can invoke for family harmony, for instance. So my friend Serge took on the role of a voodoo priest and performed a voodoo ritual for this person. And that created a healing response in her, and her situation became a lot more positive through that. It would not be appropriate to take that same approach to someone who was devoutly Christian. It would have the opposite effect most likely for that person to perform a voodoo ritual on them or with them. So we're very highly adaptive. And when we're working with them, we might use something from their own law, from their own belief system, that will help them to heal in their own way. This is the real hallmark of the original shaman, is that we work with beliefs, and in fact, Kupua were the ancient psychologists of ancient Hawaii. We work with beliefs and we help people build on their own existing beliefs to create beneficial change. It's not our job to impose a new belief system on them. And we emphasize this in our training. If you find a way to achieve a particular result in a different way from the way I would do it, then you go and you do it the way that works best for you. And there's no hierarchy in the shaman cultures, the true shaman cultures. Everybody is an equal. We don't worship nature. We interact with it on an equal basis. We don't worship or pray to the gods. We interact with them on an equal basis and discuss things with them and invite their help. So we don't, it's, yes, it becomes a very interactive and equal thing. And in our tradition, when someone decides to train as a shaman, they are a shaman in our tradition of equal worth and benefit as the masters. Yes, we acknowledge different levels of skill and training, but there is still the new people that come in are colleagues. They're not students, they're colleagues, and they're working with us to make the world a better place. In this particular order in Hawaii, Kupua, we are peacemakers and we are adventurers. Most of the traditions of around the world are warrior traditions. So we create, and the two different paths are equally valuable in terms of healing, but the approach is very different and the experience is very different. It tends to be much more social and enjoyable and fun focused, the adventurer way of working. So anyway, to get back to the principles, Manawa, now is the moment of power. The past is a memory, the future is possibility and potential. And you have the power always in the present moment to change limiting beliefs, to shift your focus, and consciously plant the seeds of a future of your choosing. As you change your mind, you change your experience. This physical world that seems so solid and hard and fixed is actually very, very fluid and flexible. It's pure energy that we bring into focus with our attention and our beliefs. And when we change our beliefs, this physical world molds itself to match that. So as we change, and this is what be the change you want to see in the world really means. When you change inside, the world around you will change to match it. And I've seen this very, very dramatically sometimes in the physical world where things have changed. Buildings have appeared out of nowhere or disappeared. Things that I remember being there very, very strongly, clearly, places that I've been in. And I've walked down the street and one day and it's not there. Yes, it's happening more and more to people and it happens to everybody actually, but most people, and it has always happened to everybody, but most people explain it away, oh, my memory is not very good, or oh, I just lost that thing that's moved. But things do move around. This reality is very flexible. So anyway, as we change our beliefs, we change our physical reality. I've had this experience particularly most dramatically with when my son broke his foot one night, school event, went to the hospital, got the x-ray, shows the fracture, and they put a cast on it, and he had to come back in a couple of days to get it x-rayed again and get a permanent cast put on. But we worked with it, and basically all the pain had gone by the next morning, and when it was x-rayed there was no break. So the break that had been there had healed within 2 days. And this really isn't physically possible when you look at the physical science of it. But these things are possible and they do happen. And no, he healed himself. I assisted him to heal himself. I used a technique that we call dream weaving or symbolic healing. So I communicated with the bone in his foot. And I asked my subconscious to give me an image of the foot's dream, of the bone's dream, what it was dreaming at that point, what it was believing about itself at that point. And so I got an image in my symbols of what was happening there. And then I actively and creatively changed that image to make it more harmonious, more joyful, and bring it into greater balance. And that broadcast a new message to the foot and to my son's subconscious. And because the subconscious decided that was a more joyful state of being and had no resistance to choosing that, it adopted that pattern and healed. Not so much with, well, given that everything is energy, yes, I communicated with the energy of the bone. There will be lots of similar ideas around the world to this. What's different about this is we've modernized it and we've simplified it. That's our process, is to simplify and demystify how all of this works and why and we don't really care why it works. Shaman aren't interested so much in why. And if you need a reason why, make something up that sounds reasonable if that allows you to move forward and do the thing, if you need that. But shaman don't really worry about why. We're interested in the result. We're interested in a beneficial result, and we will use whatever is beneficial and whatever works for the individual or the situation in the moment. One of the big differences between warrior shaman or warrior healers or practitioners, tribal priests, and the adventurer way is that they learn that they have to have a very strict discipline, and they have to use the correct ritual in the correct circumstances, and they have to do it perfectly to get a good result. We work quite the opposite. We can make something up in the moment as long as it is appropriate for the situation and evokes the result that we are looking for, or that the person is looking for. Because we don't judge. When we send healing to someone, we don't judge what the person will do with that. They either ask for help or we sense that they need help. We will do what we can do in response to that, and it's entirely up to them what they do with that. So we're not interfering, we're not controlling or manipulating or doing something that's going to take them off their path, because they have the right and the ability to reject anything that is sent or to use it in a different way from what we might expect. Somebody might be on death's bed and about to die from cancer or something like that, and we send them healing energy. Some people might choose to use that to get well and come back into a state of physical health, and others might use that to transition and move into an alternate reality, to leave this reality and move into a new space of being. There's a couple of questions coming up, and so I will come back to those when I'll finish off the last three principles, and then I'll come back and try and read the question and give an answer to those. So the fifth principle that we work with, and this is fundamental to the adventurer way, it is the principle of aloha. Now, as I said, in the Hawaiian language, if we break the word down, we can get a greater understanding of its meaning. And to love is to be happy with is one of the translations. And another translation is the joyful sharing of life energy in the present moment. So aloha means love. Hawaiians in old times greeted each other with love and farewelled each other with love. And it describes a state of being. Mahalo is another word used these days to mean thank you. But when it's broken down, it has this similar syllables in it, like ha is breath, and that is used symbolically to represent life and energy. Hawaiians spoke very metaphorically because they understood the power of words. So ha, it's the word for breath, and symbolically and metaphorically, if you're not breathing, you're not going to be physically alive for very long, and you're not going to have much energy for very long. So symbolically, ha means breath, represents energy. A lot of people think it means energy, but it's representative of energy rather than directly meaning it. It's also the word for the number 4 as well. But mahalo, it's said as thank you, but it really describes a deep, joyful connection with the thing that we are grateful for. So it describes a deep state of gratitude. But it describes a state of being more than just being a courtesy to say thank you for something. It actually encompasses the feeling of joy as well. So to love is to be happy with. Now, everything in this physical reality, in this physical life, is made up of relationships. Relationships between people in nature, between people and their bodies, people and their beliefs. And aloha is the ability, the aloha spirit, the spirit of loving cooperation, is the ability to exist in any reality in total harmony. It also means that as judgment decreases, love increases in the situation. And this is a tricky concept to get hold of, because somebody might be doing something that is physically harmful to us. And if we can accept, okay, that's happening partly because of my beliefs inside me, and partly because of their beliefs inside them, and there's a relationship through focus that's brought this into our lives for any particular reason. The judgment comes in when we decide that what they are doing is wrong or bad. They're just doing what they do through their beliefs, and we're experiencing it through our beliefs. So if we can step aside from that judgment and not get angry because they're doing something horrible and wrong, and address our own internal beliefs about it and reactions to it, and adjust our behavior and our attitude, they will fade out of our life and other people will come in. But a deeper, another aspect of this is it means that we can, if we're in harmony with something, we can be in any environment whatsoever without any harm, without stress and therefore harm. One of the understandings of this tradition is that all illness comes from stress. And what causes the stress is what we believe about what's happening to us or the situation that we're in. And if we can change the way we relate to that situation or that event, we can get rid of that stress, and any ill effects that we get from that automatically heal themselves. The body knows how to heal itself. All we have to do is resolve the conflicting beliefs that we're experiencing, and the tension goes away and the body comes back into balance. And this is another difference between the adventurer traditions and the warrior tradition. Warriors use symbols and tend to personify things. So if they see illness in a person's body, they represent that symbolically as something outside the body has invaded it, because they're warrior, they're thinking doing battle, so they will go into other realms and do battle with the symbol of whatever's entered the body and cast it out. And when the ill person believes that it's been cast out, tension goes away and they heal themselves. All healing is essentially self-healing. All I do as a shaman, I'm a helper. I help a person resolve those conflicts in their thinking and belief. And in this tradition, we come purely from behavior. We treat everything as a behavior, treat emotions as behaviors. We treat things like abundance. Abundance is a behavior, can be seen as a behavior. And if we can cultivate that behavior, we will have abundance. Lack is a behavior. So if we can reprogram that behavior into being more abundant, then our circumstances change. And this is, for most modern people, is a lot easier to handle than having to change a belief. Working on changing behaviors, it somehow seems a lot more straightforward. Everything we do in life, we do out of habit. And it's simply a case of changing the predominant habits, create a more flowing and balanced life. And unfortunately, through various events and societal changes, we've learnt some pretty poor attitudes and poor behaviours. And the sixth principle addresses that one. we're brought up in modern societies and some even ancient societies to feel that we are absolutely powerless and our range of choices within the system are very limited. But in Huna, we acknowledge that all power comes from within. So if something in life seems to have power over us, it's only because we have a habit of allowing that to have power over us. And if we can change that habit of thinking and behaving, then it will no longer have power over us. And this is another thing that we address. We talk about mana. Now some people consider this to be energy. Mana is not energy, it is power. Power involves energy. It also involves wisdom. So it is the ability to use energy effectively to create change predominantly. Create the life and experience that we want to have. And so it is the power to do stuff, to achieve stuff. It is not the power over anything. Control is an illusion, and control, always the motivation for control or attempting to control, always comes from a fear-based thinking. And so we, in this tradition, work to eliminate fear-based thinking and encourage love and cooperation-based thinking. Because in this tradition, everyone and everything is your friend if you can learn how to speak with that. So unlike the warriors, they have allies and they have enemies, and they develop the power to overcome their enemies and have good relationships with their friends and allies. In this tradition, we learn that we can make friends with anything at all and have a joyful and helpful and cooperative relationship with it. An example might be, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the Carlos Castaneda books from the 60s, I think. He talks about power spots in the desert. Walking through the desert, and he was a sorcerer. He was not a shaman. Virtually nothing about healing in those traditions, in those books. The sorcerer is a path of personal power. The shaman path is a healing path. We cultivate these powers and abilities for the purpose of healing, for the benefit of the community and for individuals and for the environment. That's the distinction, the real distinction of a shaman. His motivation always is healing, creating beneficial change. But he was a warrior sorcerer, and he'd be walking through the desert and he'd become aware of a power spot. And these can occur naturally, and we can create them various techniques and abilities that we have. And he would tune into that power spot, and he would decide whether this was a beneficial power spot, whether he could use it to help him with something that he needed to do or wanted to do, or whether it was going to harm him and get in the way of what he wanted to do. If it was a beneficial power spot, he would move into it, use the power, and move out of it with the benefit that gave him. If it was a harmful power spot in his view, he would move around the power spot and avoid it. Now the adventurer would come along and say, oh, here's a power spot. And to us, all power spots are good power spots. And the only determination that we would make is this energy of this power spot useful to me at the moment in time? Yes, okay, move in, use the benefit to create some beneficial change somewhere or somewhen, and then move on to the next environment. If it was unhelpful or just simply not effective to use that kind of energy for the purpose we have in that moment, okay, there's another power spot somewhere else. We'll harmonize with it and move through it anyway. There's no concept of needing protection There's no concept of bad energy. Just can we use this effectively in the moment for what we need to do, or do we need to find some other energy? Or if the energy, we feel the energy patterns are somehow out of harmony, we will do something to heal that and then move through and on. Another thing you get a lot in warrior traditions is in the journeys, in the shaman journeys, and this is one of the other hallmarks of the shamans, is they use visions a lot, seeing into other realities and traveling in alternate realities. The warriors typically they go on a quest for a vision. You hear about vision quests. And typically it would be about information about what to do about some situation. But adventurers, we use vision to go on quests. So warriors go on quest for visions, but we use visions to go on quests and adventures. And if a warrior encounters an animal that bares its teeth at him and growls at him, he takes that as a sign that he's not supposed to go there, and will come out and do something different, or wait for another time, a more auspicious time to go on that journey. As an adventurer, if I go on a journey into the underworld, for example, and an animal bares its teeth at me, I will smile back. And I will find some way to move past that animal, even if I have to allow the animal to consume me and digest me and pass me through and come out the other end. I will find a way to continue on that journey. So there are no signs and no restrictions. This is my journey. It's coming out of my subconscious. There's nothing in there that can harm me. And if I have a purpose that's strong enough, I will find a way. And because that animal or whatever obstacle comes up represents some belief system in me, working through the relationship with that obstacle changes the belief in my subconscious, which will ease the way forward in some issue in my physical life. And so we use these symbols a lot in what we call structured dreaming, to call up a visual image or a sound or a feeling in what we call our inner garden, a structured environment that we use in order to have these experiences. We can ask our subconscious to give us a symbol of a dream or a situation that we're having a problem with, and by working with the symbol we can resolve the relationship with the situation and find a way through it and to navigate through that way and change physical reality by doing that. And we have the power and the right and the freedom to make these choices ourselves in all matters. And the seventh principle, finally, is Pono, which means effectiveness is the measure of truth. So we have this concept that truth is subjective. There isn't any absolute truth. There is only what we call subjective reality. And it's subjective based on our own internal workings and beliefs. And so, like I was saying before, effectiveness is the measure of truth. It was effective to do a voodoo ritual for someone that believes in voodoo, but it's not effective to do that for someone who has Christian or other beliefs that would find that process challenging. So it's not effective. That's not their truth. It's not truth in that situation, but it is truth in the first situation. So truth is very conditional on context and purpose. You might have a car that runs on petrol. If you have a real strong desire to blow the engine up, it would be very effective, and it would be truth of that situation to fill it up with diesel fuel. Try to run it on that. Pretty certain it's going to blow the engine pretty quick. But if you want to keep the engine running smoothly and happily and get you to places, then it's not truth in that situation. The truth of that situation is that you use good quality petrol. And when events like that happen in life, sometimes it comes out of we don't know where consciously. We use that simply as information that hey, maybe there's a belief or a relationship going on somewhere in us that can do with some harmonizing and some balancing. And so we just take that as a symbol that, yeah, we need to work on something. And that's where we're taking that power inside. It's not the universe doing something to us or punishing us for anything. It's just an effect of a belief that we have or a behavior that we have. So if something in our life is not working, we go back to the beginning. Is what I am thinking and doing and believing effective for creating the reality that I want? If not, then we have the freedom and the flexibility to change. And we change that with belief, with focus, with attention. In the present moment, with love, because all power comes from within, create greater effect. That fundamentally is the Huna philosophy. And I notice we're over an hour now. If everyone's happy to continue, I can look at some questions. So you have the right and the power to create change in your life. It is that simple, but simple is not always easy, especially when you're working with other people who have very fixed beliefs, but it is always possible. Yes, Serge has a site here in Second Life, and we meet every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Hawaiian time. I think that's 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. It's I think it's 11 a.m. SL time on a Wednesday morning. And if anyone wants the link to that, the landmark for that, everybody is welcome. Come and discuss issues, ask questions about Huna or anything at all. Everybody is more than welcome. How do we get visions? Somebody's asked, Venus has asked. We use our imagination. Imagination is the primary tool of our consciousness to create reality. This whole physical reality is imagined into existence. And, and we use creative imagination. And we work with the symbols in order to create change. How do you know it's the right one? Can you elaborate, please, Venus? The right vision? We assume it is. We assume it's the right vision, and if there is anything in it that, because it's based on our subconscious patterns, if there's anything in it we don't like, we can change it. We assume it is always correct. Don't like it. By changing it, we affect our subconscious beliefs, change those fundamental patterns, and that then flows out into a change in our physical reality. But not only this reality, because there are no limits, all of the other realities that we exist in all at the same time. Aloha Strix, and thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad you enjoyed the presentation. This is a very, very basic presentation. It's very, it's an all-encompassing philosophy. It doesn't exclude anything. It's only about what works. And Serge Kahili King has some books, primarily Urban Shaman, is a very, very good book that goes into the principles quite deeply. I can hang around for a little while if anyone has further questions. And if anyone wants to contact me individually outside at any time, please feel free to contact me. Send friend requests or contact me on Facebook or through my website. And just a link to my website.
Hey Kahu, thought I'd come back on voice. So Kahu, thank you very much for a very professionally and well delivered session tonight. I really got a lot out of that. Feel free to share the links. I see them coming through now. That's great. I guess you're staying behind for a few questions, so if you've got things to say, feel free to ask anything else. We are going to be planning our schedule soon for July and a bit of August. I know it's sort of vacation time also, and certainly September, so it would be great to have your contribution again, Kahu, and we'll talk about that. I think you're still there. I've lost you from my screen suddenly. Oh, there you are. Maybe you went flying in the sky. Often happens. Hit the old stand button and you go flying through the sky. Yep, that's happened to me before. So yeah, Ko, tell us a bit about your regular class. When do you have it and where do you have it? When does it happen? 8 a.m.
It's 8 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time,
HST.
which it doesn't. They don't change to daylight time or anything. They just stay on the same time zone.
Okay, what's the conversion for Hawaiian time? I wonder.
I believe that is 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
So it's like an 11, so it's like 3 hours further back.
I believe it's 3 hours.
And the House of Tigers is the sim.
It's Wednesday mornings.
Wednesday mornings.
But Serge is, if anyone's really keen and reads the books or anything, Serge is available via email and welcomes questions on Huna or requests for healing. Yeah. We have a Facebook group called Hunatics.
Yeah, Hunatics.
That Hunatics. A bit of a play on lunatics. But everyone is welcome to join that. Yeah. It's more a healing request kind of group. But anyone is welcome to ask questions, and we'll do our best to give the answer.
That's great.
Or an answer, because it's all subjective. And two people might ask the same question, but what is helpful to them to move them forward in their life might be a quite different answer to what someone else might find useful.
Sure. I don't mind, Kahu, if you want to, on the Wednesday morning, post your message to our group. You've got the host setting permissions, so you should be able to send out a notice or post into the main chat. No problem doing that.
I'll see if I can remember to do that. But I need to learn how to put the link and stuff in there.
The SL URL, is that right? The Second Life URL?
Yeah, the landmark.
Yeah, one way of doing it easy is if you bring up a landmark in your inventory, right click it. You can now do copy SL URL, and that will put it on the clipboard. Then if you then paste that into your message, that should give you the little link that gets you to the location.
Right.
We can make it for
And
you if you want.
anybody, yeah, once you get to the location,
Yeah.
Anybody is welcome to use that space for meditation,
Great.
and to link in with the healing network that we have to receive healing.
Sure.
And I'm available if anyone is interested, of course, if they want to work on a specific issue. I work with, it's a modernized version of Ho'oponopono. We call Kupono, because it's working with those beliefs. It's different from the modern westernized system that's out there called, that is the self-identity Ho'oponopono that's taught. But anyone is welcome to come and talk about anything they wish. And you can send me a message through Facebook if you want to connect at any particular time.
That's great. So you've got a Facebook link and website link, Huna, Hawaii, and your class is at 8 a.m. Hawaiian Standard Time. That's 9 GMT and about 11 PDT. Thank you very much, Kahu.
So it's an open discussion group rather than a class.
Right, yeah, sure.
So you can ask for healing in that class, you can ask questions about different issues, and receive the Huna perspective.
I had one question actually, Kahu, so if you've got the time, I wanted to ask you where you think Huna comes from originally. It seems to have some of those metaphysical aspects of it that seem to be also in a few other kind of, I think, some Hermetic texts, or some of the stuff, some of the Egyptian stuff I've seen as well. So just wondering what you felt, where you feel the kind of source of it's from, where it comes from.
The legends of the Kahili family talk of the Mu coming from the Pleiades,
Moon,
and coming to Lemuria.
Lemuria.
The people of Mu.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Sorry?
How's that spelt?
Yes.
Mu. Yes, right. Okay. Mu. Yes. Okay.
And they lived on the continent of Lemuria.
Right.
Oops, there's an N in there. That should be an M.
Lemuria with an M. Yes. Yes.
And they taught this knowledge to the people who lived there. And some people put the tradition around 50,000 years old.
Yeah.
Some 100,000 years old. Depends on their different family traditions. But it's a common legend in Hawaii that this knowledge came from the Pleiades. The Pleiades, the star system, the star cluster.
7 sisters.
And in fact, one of the main 7 sisters was named Maui, because that's where Maui's father came from. And there are legends about floating islands that left from the north shore of Kauai to return to the Pleiades, and they sound a lot like flying saucers in the legends.
Yeah.
But the legend is that this knowledge came to Lemuria from the Pleiades and then spread out around the world, where it evolved into different cultural expressions based on the environment that it evolved in, basically.
Right.
So, that's where we find Hawaiian is one of the simplest languages. There's only 12 consonants, and I can't remember how many vowels. But we find things like Ra is the Maori word, the New Zealand Maori word for the sun, same as the Egyptian word. And the Maori talk of a close connection with the Egyptians. The word for the sun in Hawaiian is La, L-A, which is the same word in a different dialect. Ki is the Hawaiian word for life force energy, which is the same as the Japanese and the same as the Chinese Chi. Kahuna is the word for a master practitioner of a given skill, and Kahuna, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but the Barbers of North Africa have the same word for their spiritual leaders.
Right.
We have a plant, a vegetable in New Zealand called the kumara, which is a sweet potato that the Maori brought with them from Hawaii. But it originates in South America. So there was travel between Hawaii and these other continents and trade. In fact, 1300 years ago, roughly, the Hawaiian Islands were invaded by a Tahitian priest using Samoan warriors and imposed his system on the Hawaiians at that time. But we have descendants of the Mu still living in Hawaii, the Menehune. And you'll find people in Hawaii that don't look Polynesian. They are dark-skinned, but they have very different features and they're much smaller in stature. And there are stories of little people all around the world. You get the leprechauns, the magic people of Ireland, for example. And if you look at the legends, there's a lot of correlation and connection between them. So wherever it came from, and you do find the common links, like the 7 principles can be found in the Gospels of Jesus, in the Bible, almost word for word. There will be things in Buddhism that correlate and differences depending on attitude and application. But we like to keep things nice and simple. So we have 3 aspects of self: the Lono, the Ku, and the Aumakua. Whereas in Ayurveda, for instance, with the Indians being very analytical people, they have 800 different aspects of the psyche. But all of these systems are made up. They're all arbitrary, and the only test that we use in Huna is, does it work? Can we use it for something practical and something beneficial?
Right.
So we don't judge an idea based on where it came from. We base an idea on how useful it is to us. And if it's not, we don't criticize it as wrong. It may well be useful in some other context. So we let go of this judgment that things are right and wrong. Yeah. And I think more in terms now of, is it effective or is it not useful to me right now? And when we let go of that level of judgment, of having to maybe defend our point of view, a whole lot of tension disappears and we're a lot more relaxed and at peace in the world.
So it's been kind of passed down then from generations to generations. A bit like, it's what makes me think about Easter Island as well, because Hawaii is quite a remote place, isn't it, in a way?
I'm not very clearly, Dragon.
Can you hear me?
Let me see if I can turn some sounds down.
Might be the distance, by the way. If you zoom closer to me, hear me better.
I've got it set to have everyone the same volume, so it's not a camera setting.
Oh, it's that setting, is it?
In the preferences, there's an option to set your voice so that everybody is the same volume instead of it being from a camera or an avatar position.
Right.
Yeah, so it should amplify everybody the same, but I'll try and turn my volumes up.
Oh yeah, listen from camera position and avatar position. So what if I choose avatar position? It's better.
That affects how you hear me.
Yeah, right. I think my input volume isn't particularly high. Oh yes, my volume's actually quite low. That's why. My input volume is low. Here it goes. We're zooming up. Lucky my sound's working even at that because it was busted yesterday. Okay.
But one of the things we look for in this tradition and in the Aloha spirit is to make things fun and as community oriented as possible and as cooperative as possible.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good to me.
It's much louder, Dragon.
So Kahu,
it's interesting.
Yeah. I think Kahu would be great for you to come. Yeah.
Yeah, go, you go.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for you to come back again and do some more of this. We could talk about a date or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of material. Can spend a whole workshop just on the 3 selves.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole workshop on the 3 levels of 4 levels of reality that we work with, and how to use that to change reality. There's journeys that we can do to work with the symbols, and time travel, astral travel.
Time travel.
Yeah. Yeah, we do things like, there's a technique around that people use. We can travel back as a spirit guide to our younger self and give ourselves advice based on what we know now. And
oh yeah,
I've done that with people in a healing session.
It's pretty intense.
And the change has been the change for them has been so dramatic that they can't even remember what they were like before. They changed that dramatically, and they can't even remember the behaviour they came to get fixed in the first place.
I've been reading a book called Homecoming, which is very much about that sort of concept, where you go back and
most
fix
of
stuff.
These things have grown out of shaman tradition. Acting, for instance, is a shaman skill. As in when Serge acted the role of a voodoo priest so convincingly that the person he was working with had a very powerful healing response.
I see. Just getting a real drink now, folks. I'll be right back. If you want some audio, I can put some in the background too. Oh, that won't be long.
How do you go where, Venus? Oh, because all that exists is the present moment, we can use